Welcome to the Liberty Watchdog Network, a highly enlightening show that discusses America's founding principles and how they still apply today. Learn what our government was intended to be, how it has gotten out of control, and what you can do about it. The Constitution is in crisis. If you are a concerned American about the direction of this country, then you are not alone and must tune in every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can't defend what you don't know. Learn it or lose it. Please be sober-minded that what we are about to share will be shocking to you. I am your Son of the American Revolution host and LibertyWatchdog.com founder, Nate Green. So let's explore our nation's founding principles of liberty. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is September 27th, 2017. You know, with all that's going on in this country in regards to the national anthem and what's going on with what Trump had to say, the bottom line is the national anthem has nothing to do with sporting events. And if you've been a fan of our Facebook page, then you would have read the last post that I just put out there this past couple days, where I stated, let me be clear. Those that know me know this fact. I have never believed in having the national anthem played at a mere sporting event. And besides, the full anthem has never been played because the fourth verse is purposely left out since it mentions God. I have always believed that it takes away from the passion, the spirit, and true meaning of Key's poem and becomes a mere ritual thing to do, orchestrated by deep pockets that thrive on an industry that can only profit from the elation of pure emotion. In fact, this ritual began back in 1918 during World War I. In that time, some 100,000 American soldiers had died. And after September 4th, the day before the first Chicago game, a bomb ripped through the Chicago Federal Building, killing 4 people and injuring 30. After these tragic events, people were not in a fun, fanatic mood. And since these war-strained fans, rightfully so, were not engaged in the sport of baseball, baseball management knew that bringing a patriotic theme to the event was the only thing to bring people to their feet. The difference, though, folks, back then is that in those days, for games to follow, and the games that followed years later, of what really brought the people to their feet during the anthem was not the players, but the true heroes of the day. Those who inspired Francis Scott Key to write his poem. Those who were injured in battle that came on the field. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to go study history. You need to go back in time and get back to what was the original way of doing things. And you have to see that the national anthem was not played at sporting events. It wasn't designed, it wasn't meant for that. And when it was played at sporting events, the people back then in 1918 recognized who the heroes really were. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to talk about what's happening today with our health care. If you didn't know, any health care law, whether it be Obamacare or Romney Care, any government fascist, socialist controlling medical scheme is unconstitutional, period. And if it doesn't tell you something that you actually have members of Congress that don't have to partake in a bill that they force upon the people, then if that doesn't help you wake up, I don't know what will. And I'd like to talk about what Thomas Jefferson, his warning of healthcare usurpation. That's right, he warned about this type of thing. You know, our founders knew the dangers of fascism in healthcare, and we must all realize that any of these types of bills or laws are completely unconstitutional and usurp our inalienable rights as endowed by God, our Creator. Remember, our Constitution specifically states, quote, to promote, not provide for the general welfare. If we would have only perpetuated the knowledge of these true patriots, we would not be down by this fascist road that we're on. So I want you to read and heed as I quote limits of governmental aid and assistance. Quote, was the government to prescribe to us our medicine and diet, our bodies would be in such keeping as our souls are now, said Thomas Jefferson on the Notes of Virginia in 1782. He says, I hope we shall take warning from the example of England and crush in its birth the aristocracy of our money corporations, which dare already to challenge our government to trial and bid defiance to the laws of our country, is what he said to George Logan in 1816. So what was he hinting at? He was pointing out that the corporatocracy of the day was already challenging the constitutional laws that were instilled by the people, ratified by the people, the states, the average American. So what's changed? We have. We've been indoctrinated to accept anything that is put forward before us as being constitutional, and we never question it. And that's why I ask so many people 4 basic questions. Number 1, where does liberty come from? Number 2, how many delegated powers does Congress have? What about the Supreme Court? And what about the President? And if we can't answer these 4 basic questions, then we inadvertently vote away our own freedoms. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that if you call yourself a so-called conservative, that the very heroes that you have promoted and voted for the unconstitutional act of Obamacare, the first round that made it law. And might I remind you that these men and women gave an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and by doing so, voting for an unconstitutional act, no matter what it is, put them in violation of their oath. And it's up to you and me to hold their feet to the fire. Not to mention that with Obamacare, the law that was passed, it actually gave authority for the President of the United States to raise his own 6,000 manned private army. That's right, it's actually in the law. And I challenge you to research what I just said. You see, what you think is reality versus reality are 2 different things. And if I gave you a piece of chopped liver when you were a child and said, this is filet mignon, then sadly you're going to believe that's filet mignon until you get to taste the real authentic thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't tasted the authentic Constitution for over 150 years. And it's about time we get back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you to do research and to learn about the real foundation of our country. Visit libertywatchdog.com and take our next constitutional boot camp. We're in the work of putting together a webinar, and we need you to be part of it and to share it with your fellow citizens. Hope to see you next week. I'm Nate Green. May God bless you, and may God bless America.